Hello. Welcome to Bad at Board Games.
Well, he's bad at board games.
I'm Brad Lake.
I'm Topher Ferguson.
We're bad at board games, so you don't have to be. And Toph is not a Western ranger or a sheep herder or anything. You could be a sheep herder. You have the beard. I think you could be a sheep herder with the beard.
Moo.
Bah.
Moo.
This is the bad. Bad at board games.
Oh, God, you're terrible. Oh, yes. Friends, this is what you get. Terrible jokes from the one and only Brad Lake.
Let's see how many times I can put the little sheep in here with bah during this to annoy everybody. Just at random time. Usually when Toph's talking, I'll probably just pop up a sheep.
Thanks.
Thanks,
friend. I appreciate it.
Maybe I can figure out how to put a sheep on your head, like that green screen kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
So
comment down below if you would like me to put some shorts up with Toph as a sheep.
There are going to be some people that will do that.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can't wait. Can't wait. So,
what are we talking about today?
Today we are going to be talking about Great Western Trail, New Zealand.
Not Newfoundland.
Not Newfoundland. I cannot talk today. Not Newfoundland, like Brad thought earlier. He's confused. I've tried to show
a few videos
him
ago when it was the Gen Con anticipation games that I wanted. I believe I said Great Western Trail, Newfoundland.
Although I would like to get a Canadian version, it'd be fun.
It would be.
Keep making them.
Maybe it would be hockey and huskies and things.
Yeah. So, anyways, stick around. You can watch us as we go into this deep dive review of Great Western Trail, New Zealand. We'll give you our value ratings. We'll give you our weight ratings. We'll give you our BGG overall scale ratings, and maybe talk a little bit about the games that we've played and who has won those games. I'm not going to say who it is, but somebody here has won the games, and someone here has lost the games.
You have, but you haven't played all the games because you haven't been to all the games. But I still have lost all the games.
I wasn't going to say any names, but since you did, yes, someone is bad at board games. So, anyways, you ready?
I've been last every time, although I think it's been close. So we'll get to that. So, yes.
So this game here, New Zealand, Great Western Trail, New Zealand, it is the 2023 version of, or adaptation of, Great Western Trail, a game that both Brad and I love dearly. This also is by Alexander Pfister. It is published by Egertspiel. You are able to get it now. Brad was able to get it at Gen Con. You can find it online, some other places as well. The game itself, if you're familiar with Great Western Trails, very similar theme, but in this edition, instead of herding cows and taking them to sell, we are actually sheep herding, shearing those sheep, and then going to sell the sheep as well. And in doing so, we have a little bit of a bonus action where we can sail around the seas, getting some extra locations to either sell some wool or sell some sheep.
Yep. So the appearance is going to be similar to Argentina. Unfortunately, they have gone with the shiny board and not the matte board, which was Great Western Trail 2nd Edition. We are fans of the matte board ourselves, although this one doesn't seem as shiny. I don't know if that is just because of it was intentional not to be as shiny, because people complain about the other one, but it's not like the light's hitting it and I'm like getting blinded. I can still kind of see things, but still a fan of the matte, more like these are shiny player boards too. We prefer the matte version, but other than that, you're getting everything you've noticed in Great Western Trail, just more of it, and a Table Hog.
Yes. Bigger player boards, bigger boards. Well, the main board's the same. Bigger supplemental board.
More space taken up from the outside because you have more. And Siri is telling me I need to do something. She can go pound salt.
Wow. Tell us how you really feel.
And you have more deck building cards around the table than the previous two games.
Yeah. There's quite a bit going on.
What kind of mechanics do we have?
Yes. So, again, if you are familiar with the other Great Western Trails, we're talking the same thing. So if you're not familiar with it, by and large, starting off, this is a deck builder game, which is going to come with it hand management, you're not familiar with deck building, you're going to be piling through cards, buying cards, putting them in your hand, and kind of cycling through that deck to do things. It's also tableau building. So we are going to be expanding out our player board. We're going to have some objectives and things that we're going to build out in front of us as well. So we've got a little bit of building to do between our deck and the rest of the game. This also is going to be a game where we have to move. So track movement is going to be a big part of it. And this one actually is going to have multiple routes that you can take, as well as multiple tracks that you can move on, depending on if you're moving your actual sheep herder or if you're moving your boats. With this game, we're going to have some ownership. So between locations that you can go to and own the locations, or maybe sell to once and never again because you're already at that spot. But there's going to be places where we will own that spot and maybe in doing so block other people. We also have set collection, and that's really going to come in as we get into the end game bonuses. But there's also bonus points that we're going to be getting as we go throughout the game. So you'll notice a little bit of strategy come into how you're going to obtain as well as meet the objectives of those bonuses. It's also going to come in with objective cards. So, man, there's a lot going on. So the objective cards are going to help you as you go throughout the game in terms of maybe building a new strategy or pathway forward in order to get the additional points or not lose points that are located on those objective cards. That's pretty much the game in a nutshell. There is a variable setup to the game. That's another thing that Brad and I really like, especially as you play these games over and over and over again. To have something that's different is nice. You're not going to have the exact same game every single time you play it.
Yeah. So kind of giving you a breakdown of what a turn looks like, a general overview. It's like Great Western Trail was before. You are going to draw up to 4, 5, or 6 cards, depending on what you've unlocked on your tableau. You're going to move between 3 and potentially 6 spaces, depending on how you unlock your tableau. And you're going to move through, potentially paying your opponents if you pass through something that they have to pay, paying the bank. Once you land on one of the tiles, either a neutral one or one of your own, you're going to take that action. And there will typically be more than one action at that location. Once you're done with that action, you may have discarded some cards. You will then draw back up to your full supplement, whether that's 4, 5, or 6, depending on what stage of the game it is. And then the other person's going to go. In that sense, it's simple. I'm going to move. I'm going to take the action of the space I land on, and then I'm going to, potentially play cards, discard cards during that action. Then I'm going to draw back up. And it's just, you're repeating that. But those 3 things, there's a lot of stuff going on between those 3 things because every building has a different action, right? And you can shift and move and all those kind of things. So we're going to talk about this game. And should we go into, I was thinking because there's so much of this game, maybe we break it out into, the top section of the board and what's different with that, the tableau, the main bit game, and then maybe even this sidetrack over here. So do you think that would be a good way where we kind of organize our thoughts around different parts of the board?
Like when we're talking about what we thought about our gameplay or
anything cons, in general.
Like that. I think so. Yeah. Why don't we do a little bit more kind of in the overview? Because I know you have started to be able to kind of show people a little bit better some of the thoughts of what's going on. You did a general overview of how a hand plays. Why don't we start with what is probably the most similar to Great Western Trail, which is this main board and the sheep herding.
Yeah. So you're just going to go along the trail. You have different paths you can take. They may take you through hazards, which you could spend your money on there. They may take you other directions. Typically, they're going to fork around. I haven't counted them. There seems to be fewer places to put buildings out. There may be the exact same, but it still feels like there's less buildings to take out. A big change down in this area is that you can now shear your sheep instead of just selling your sheep, and that gets rid of the cards. And there's a mechanic that allows you, and workers that allow you to do that. And then once you deliver to Wellington, you can sell your sheep. The difference with this one is you don't have a train. So how you're having to move your train and manage your train location, and then depending on how far away you're trying to deliver from where your train is. There may be costs involved in this. That's all gone with delivering and selling your goods. As you move further down, say between 0 and 9, 0 and 6, you're not paying anything. But once you hit 9, 12, 15, 18, you're going to pay regardless. So it doesn't matter how far you have a train, because there is no train in this. So those are two big changes in this area down here.
Yeah, and as Brad talked about shearing sheep, this is probably the biggest difference with this game and some of the other ones. On your sheep cards, I'm going to say cows at some point, but on your sheep cards, you're going to have the standard value that you're used to at the top. This is what you're going to sell that sheep for. But you're also going to have a ball of yarn, and that yarn is the value of the wool that you can shear and sell. So your cards are doing two things to it. And one thing that Brad picked up on right away, I think, in this game is that as you acquire new sheep, they may be very high valued, but their wool is not very good. But they also could be very low valued with very good wool quality, and therefore you can shear it for very high prices. So it's an interesting way to get your coins, you know, in a little bit different, a different way than the other two games. You know, the cows are doing more for you, or the sheep are doing more for you in this game.
And to that example, the best card I would have said is this one. You're going to sell for 6 coins, but its wool, if you ever shear it, is only worth 3, but it does have 7 victory points. However, this one, which is like a mid sheep, you sell it for 2, which is not a lot. It's not going to get you very far on the track, but you can shear it for 5 wool, but then it's kind of mid on the victory points. So they're constantly making you, you know, you're going to decisively choose. Do I want this one because I really need more of the victory points, or do I need this one because my strategy is more getting money through shearing and not delivering? You know, but you kind of have to balance it all a little bit, but you kind of want to lean into one or the other as you're going.
And as you're going through that shearing action, similar to when you sell your cows or sell your sheep in this game, sheep in this game, you can, depending on the value of that wool, deliver it, kind of like you did the cows and the sheep in this game. And we'll get more into that as we get to another section of the board. But I think that's one thing that's pretty cool. This is also going to give you another mechanic, which is interesting. At some point in the game, some of these neutral buildings are going to flip over, and now they're going to have different actions that you can take that's on them.
Yeah, they kind of take away some things that you like in the first half of the game. So halfway down, and it's a separate tracker for time, half the buildings have this symbol on it. And like this one's going to allow you to move up a track, and this one allows you to, buy some bonus tiles and some things. And then halfway through the game, it takes things away.
Yeah, anything
and
that had
it makes it a little bit tighter. So like right when that happened, I was counting on, I'm going to sell. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to buy this really cool bonus tile I want. But then the card flipped, the building flipped, and then that was taken away from me. And then by the time I got to the point where I could buy a bonus tile, I'd already spent my money on other things.
I like that. I hate it, but I like it.
Yeah.
It kind of takes an idea of, New Zealand is aging. And so some of these things are changing, which is kind of fun theme-wise, I think.
Yeah.
So there's some pretty cool things, and you are going to notice some of the same type of actions. If you're used to Great Western Trail or Argentina, you're going to notice some of the same things, but then you're going to notice some very new actions as well. So get ready for new icons to learn. A lot of them are going to make sense, but there's some new things that you're going to have to pick up as you play this game.
Definitely.
So
now we're going to talk about this other section, which typically you'd be used to is like where you buy all your workers. It's where the hire workers,
not buy them. We don't buy
all
workers.
And then you're used to the hazards just going out on the track when you choose them. That's the same. But then there's this new track, and this new track is actually the turn tracker. So instead of just filling this up and then the 5 victory point shield coming off the bottom because you've had enough workers come out, it's the bonus tiles. That's the only thing pushing this down. The workers stay out. They've got their own columns. So if you have, like in this case, we've got 6 captains here.
5.
They're really cheap, 5, whatever. And then, but you've only got 1 shepherd. Well, that shepherd's always going to be 8 coins. It doesn't change. So unless you have a bunch of them here, which means people aren't really going for that strategy, they're always going to be, they're going to cost more.
Yeah.
So it separates that, and I like that. So the variability in the coins is down here with these bonus tiles you're going to get. And then the workers are very much dependent on its supply and demand. You only have 1 worker to hire, supply is low, and that means you're going to pay more.
Yeah, I like that. So they're coming out the same way they did before. When you sell your sheep, you're going to choose, but this time you're choosing A or B, not A, B, C. A is always going to be either a hazard or a worker that's going to come into the top, and B is going to be a hazard or a bonus tile that's going to come into the bottom. And I like that a lot. It's a smaller track down here at the bottom to push the round timer off the end of the track, so it is going to speed it up a little bit, but there's so much other stuff going on that gameplay's not that much quicker.
And in this little section, and I call it the bird track, right? So you've got this symbol, which is a bird. There is 1 building, at least at the start, that allows you to move up this track. At the beginning of the game, you get to unlock one of your white bordered disc spaces so that you can kind of start to strategize right at the beginning, and that is your track marker that you're going to put on here. You get all the way to the top, there's 15 victory points here. It unlocks gold, which is a new mechanic on your Tableau. It'll increase your movement, so this is one way to increase your movement, the main way to increase your movement, really. And then at level 11, you can stop having to pay anybody or hazards. So you start off, you're going to pay 1 coin for, when the symbol is a black stop hand, or you're going to pay 2 when it's a green. And when you get up high enough on this track, you don't have to pay anything. It's great.
Or you can continue to pay them, but then you can add +2 movement to your board. Yeah,
you can end up, if you choose to unlock everything on movement, you can move 6. Every time we've been playing, it's been more, I want to never have to pay anybody or any hazards, anything, and I'll take the 5 movement instead of getting to 6 movement. But this is a cool track, and there's tons of points here.
There is.
You don't want to ignore this track, because that, it goes 3, 7, 10, 13, 15, and you don't want to be at 7 or not even at 7 when your opponents have 15 victory points.
Yeah, I will agree with Brad that he said it in the very first game when he taught me how to play, do not ignore this track. Brad got burned in that in his first gameplay. So it is vital that you move up. Do you have to get to the top? No, you don't have to. The last game that we played, I beat you and I was 5 points less from this board. So it's not like if you don't get to the very top, you're never going to win. However, I was only 1 point ahead of Brad, so it was very close. And so, it is important that you at least kind of stay close with your opponents in that. At least we feel so. So
just don't ignore anything. So then
let's move up to
the top. So everybody, including myself and probably Toph, going to compare this to Rails of the North, which is meh. It's you can go see our review on it. Don't hate it, don't love it, going to play it, but I think this is such a better implementation.
100% agree with that. Yes. Yeah, unlike Rails to the North that just kind of felt like it was a separate game that made no sense. I feel like this completely makes sense, and I feel like they integrated the movement much better.
Yeah, since you don't have trains and you're trying to play the main train track, and then they've like overlaid something else on top of it, and I think they did a much better job of this. It makes more sense. It's kind of easier to move around because you're not fighting 2 different things, 2 different mechanics. I feel I don't know. It just felt like you were fighting Great Western Trail Rails to the North. And if you're an expert at it, you'll probably say like, well, you guys haven't played it enough. That may be true, but this off the bat feels more intuitive.
Yeah, it just incorporated it greater. So throughout the main board, the actions that you can take down here, with Great Western Trail, you have the little train icon, and you can move your train when you get to that. And depending on the amount of conductors, you can move it maybe multiple spaces. With this one, you have the ships, you have the conductor, but there's so many more opportunities for you to be able to move your ships. And because you don't have the 2 tracks that you're moving on, you really can move all of your movement points to be able to expand out. That's what I think is better compared to Rails to the North. Yep. You're still putting out buildings, you're still unlocking spaces that you can go. I think it flows in a little bit better way. I think mechanically thematically, it just seems like it fits a little bit better. It doesn't feel like an afterthought. Right. I think Rails to the North feels like an afterthought, and this feels like it is integrated into the initial idea of the game.
Yeah, and you're kind of be like, well, it's just like the train, but it's a ship, and it is, but it isn't. So you do have the bonus tiles that you can pick up, and you're able to pick this up when you take one of your workers and pay the money at the spot and replace it. However, there's 3 different ports in this. There's a place where you just put one of your houses to unlock things on your Tableau, and then I think they call that a village, so there's a small town, village, port, something like that, right? City. And another place you're going to put something down that will allow you to then, once you deliver, it'll be between like 6, you have these delivery points between 3 and 6. Oh, but this one's a 5. So it allows you to unlock that.
Because just like with Great Western Trail, you cannot deliver to the same place more than once, with the exception of I call it a penalty spot at the very beginning.
-8 victory points.
Yeah. Or the top one, which I think you can go to multiple times. And, this is hard to get. It's 21 points. So, you're getting stuff. But yeah, so you've got very few limited. Everything else you can only do once. So it does. Yeah.
And then there's just different ways you can go. You can try to go get some victory points. You can try it. There's places that are not when you sell the sheep, but when you shear the sheep. So down here in the shearing sheep area, where you can get like some extra bonuses and some more victory points, you've got 5, 9, and 13, which is very limited. But then as you get up towards the top, you can get 11 and 16. So I just think it's an interesting little, like, how do I want to go grab a few extra things? And depending on which way I'm leaning, am I leaning into shearing? Am I leaning into selling? Houses, I just like the way that's done. So.
100% agree. So yeah, so your 3 places, you can go out and just put out a house to get victory points at the end of the game. You can put out a house to unlock a space to be able to sell or shear sheep or wool to, or you can unlock a space from your Tableau with a disc to be able to get victory points, a bonus card, and the opportunity to be able to replace your worker for one of those bonus tiles.
Yep.
I did not play the bonus tile game. In any of the games I've played of this, I've not played that. So Brad has. I have not.
Yeah, I went and tried to get a couple of bonus tiles. Wasn't able to move enough to get the other one, but I was sacrificing putting my captains out, and then wasn't able to move my ship as much.
Yeah.
So that brings us, so we've talked about the main board.
Let's go to the Tableau.
So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So just similar to the other Great Western Trail versions, you're going to notice some similarities with it. So here's the sections that we've got on the board. Let's start in the middle. With the middle, you've got your workers. So you can hire your workers. And with this one, there are 4. So you have your shepherd, you have your builder, you have your ship captains, and you have your sheep shearers. And so those are the 4 different workers that you can hire throughout the game to build out. And as you do, sometimes you'll cover up some additional bonuses that will take place right away as soon as you cover it. So that's going to be the middle of the board. Down the left, you're going to see very similar auxiliary actions that you can take, and you have the option of 1 side or 2 sides of each of those actions. Some of them you have to unlock, and that's going to come into play with the board itself. So some of your action spaces will allow you to take only 1 auxiliary action. Some will allow you to take the same auxiliary action twice if you have it unlocked to do both. And then, as always, you can take an auxiliary action on a space that you're on if you choose not to take the actions of that space. Below it, though, is 1 additional space, and this is similar to the blue ribbons, places where you're going to get additional value for the wool that you are selling. So you can unlock both of those. Across the top is going to be the actions, just like normal. So you have your movement. And with this one, it also has the option to either have additional movement or not pay for the hazards when you go through them. Then you have the middle section, which is telling you, just like before, here's what you do when you get to a tile. If it's one you own, if it's one you do not own, or if it's a hazard. And then finally, you've got your hand size. So you're going to start with a hand limit of 4, and then you can unlock up to 6 total for a hand limit.
And then they've added a couple of sections. So you have gold now, and gold allows you to buy more cards that you can put in your deck. So there's a randomness and why they have these symbols here, but there's 4 different levels. You've got, they call it the steering wheel of a ship, a barrel, a bell.
Not what they call it.
Well, whatever the big giant steering wheel is. And then you have a compass. And once you get enough gold, you can then buy one of those cards, and then you can go, you use all your gold for that. Or you can use your gold to buy more bonus tiles. Sometimes you get a bonus tile, it's going to give you 2 gold. Sometimes if you want, this is a worker that can be any kind of worker.
Yeah.
She requires you to spend 1 gold along with the price. So,
and then there's a really cool tile I got last game. I did not in this last one, but the last one we played, but you have to pay 4 gold to get it, but it's worth 8 victory points. Yeah, there's some pretty cool things. The gold comes in as a good currency.
And then at the bottom with the houses, which is a la Rails to the North, I like how they've done when you get a pair of houses unlocked or put out on the board, then like on the right-hand side, you permanently get a blue ribbon. And then it allows, I got a gold, but that was just one time, not all the time. Got 3 coins. And you don't want to like just pick different things because they have to be matched pairs. So you're kind of working your way from one place or the other. And do you want victory points, or do you want the bonus, or do you want the one time, get coins or a gold once, so it gives you some different ways to play the game.
It does. So, I like that a lot. I don't remember that being a part of Rails to the North. I know you can put out your buildings, drastic. But yeah, with this one, it was real strategic. Okay, I do want the victory points, or, I want this. It depends. I was hoping that our game today would go a little bit longer, because what I found in the last game that we played before was that I had the ability to then go back later in the game to unlock all the victory points. And it's a total of 7 victory points, I believe, 6 total victory points. That can really sway the game at the end. And so neither of us were able to unlock that in this game, unfortunately. But, or I guess fortunately, it kept the game pretty evenly spaced with us. But yeah, it's kind of a cool way to get an engine going or get victory points.
I just realized?
What?
I may not have put out my last delivery, which would have been 10 victory points. I'm going to have to watch that video now. Then I would have won.
You would, because it was a one-way sway. Yeah,
we'll see. Yeah. We shall see. Anyway, that's a side conversation. So we've talked about the Tableau. There's a lot more cards out here.
Yes.
Right. So I think in regular Great Western Trail, it was just mainly the objective cards that you were getting. And then you're kind of building your deck with the cows and some other things going on. This one specifically has 4 cards that you're going to use that have 0 victory points. Most of them, there's another stack of sheep, and that can help add to your deck. When you buy hazards, you can get a sheep herding dog,
or a raft if it's a water hazard.
Right. So there's a few things up here that kind of add to your deck, and I like the fact because it's a card that you can play, get the bonus, and then you immediately draw back up. So it's helping you kind of get through your deck. So those are always out, and
they're all good. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not negatives.
Right.
So it may not be victory points, but it's giving you something else: money, blue ribbons, something.
Yeah. And then I already talked about it, but one way you can spend your gold is on these other 4 cards. And the negative to that is there's just more stuff out, and it's harder to set up. So, is that everything for the most part? I mean, the sheep are pretty much duplicates.
Sheep are the same, with the exception that you've got the wool on it. The one thing about the sheep that is different is that all of the brown sheep are the same. So in the past, we would see different values or different victory points on the cards. Now, these have become a little bit simpler, which is fine. I do not miss variance in the victory points on it. But, the purple cards are going to be different. The blue cards are going to be different. The red, each of the cards are going to be different. But within that specific sheep, all of them are the same.
Yeah, all the red ones or all these purple ones are going to be 7 victory points. Where, like, if you looked at Great Western Trail, there would be a purple one with 5 victory points, one with 6 victory points, and one with 10, just randomly depending on how it came out. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. It makes it easier just to pick it up and go.
Yeah.
So
that's everything. I mean, everything else is the same. There's little components like money and, bonus stuff, but that's about it. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Should we go on to our pros or cons first?
Yeah. Well, let's start with our pros.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to start? We can go back and forth. How do you want to do it?
I think back and forth. I like when we do that.
Okay.
Personally. One pro for me is I like this separation of hiring workers and this bonus track for how quickly the game ends. I find that I just like it better. I don't feel like I know I'm still competing, but it doesn't feel as painful when somebody else gets like the cowboy and then like there's nothing else. You're forcing a strategy. I feel like there's a little bit more leeway here. I don't know why, but I do feel that way. And I think that this track, even though our game was close to 2 hours, typically like I could see this game going over 2 hours when we had 3 people. This game with a teach was under 2 hours every time. Like I haven't had a problem finishing this game, and I'm not maybe with 3 it helps move this along faster, but I still like that mechanism that is like this game just felt like it played faster.
Yeah, whether it did or not, I don't know. There's a lot more going on, so maybe that's a big part of it. But I think with this mechanic, what works so well with this is that before, like Brad was saying, you're buying something, it's all off that track. Somebody could take what you want. Now they're splitting them up. You hire workers with one action spot, and you buy the bonus tiles with another. And so it does make it a little bit, I think, almost a little less cutthroat in that regard. Yeah, I agree with that. Gosh, there's so many. Where do I want to begin with my favorite? Okay, my number one favorite thing about this game, shearing sheep. Hands down, I love that mechanic. It's helping you go through your hand faster, which is always good in a deck builder game, especially Great Western Trail, where you have this deck and you're trying to sell your sheep so you can be strategic on what you're doing. There's different ways to do it. Sometimes it's shear 1. Sometimes it's shear 2 that are different. I was able to put out a shear 3 that are different with my personal building tile. Sometimes it's going to give you the points that's going to really not just get you money, but it's going to get you into some pretty high spaces. It's an interesting addition that works thematically, but it moves the game in a way that I think sometimes you get stuck with Great Western Trail with this hand of cards that's just not good, which is going to get you stuck when you go to sell the cows. And so with this one, I absolutely love that. It's been a good strategy to play. It's been fun to unlock the additional wool. Additional blue ribbons are good as well, but that plays very well, and it does help, at least in my mind, me get through my cards much faster.
Yeah, I agree with him. I think it's a great mechanic. I really do. I've enjoyed it because, like he said previously, this top section is integrated. It doesn't feel like a bolt-on. I don't know why it's so much better than Rails to the North, but like, I like it. I can you didn't ever have more than one captain.
Not in this game. I never had more than 2 in the last one.
And so I had, I think 3 at one point, but then I was placing them out to try to, get some of these bonus tiles and some extra victory points there. But I like the integration. I like how it's done. There's more going on, but I like it. I don't know, there's enough going on up there, and it's enough different nuances that I like the way they've implemented it.
And it's, when you're moving your ship, you can do 2 things. You move your ship to the next space, or you build a house as a movement point. And I think one of the things that makes it work well is that there are tiles down here that allow you to take the move action more than once, because when you build, you can't move again. But if you have a second movement action, now you can move, build, and then move, build. or move, build. There's things that you can do that it doesn't feel like it's just a afterthought. It's a, oh, wow, look at what I can really get done in this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Gosh, there's so many things.
There's a lot of good things.
I like the houses. Let's stick with up there for just a second. I like the houses and how they unlock the bonuses. That is another part. I love engine building. So things that I can do to think strategically about, let me do this because of this reason, that is always going to make me like the game a lot more. And that feels like one of the big things that I want to work for is let me get my houses out so that I can either get, this bonus or this bonus or this bonus. I'm going to look at my hand, I'm going to see what I've got, and I'm going to assess and make a plan to build my engine in one way or another. So that was well integrated, well put in. I think it just adds to the enjoyment of the game.
Yep, I would agree. I like the fact that they took away the trains.
Yeah.
To then do this.
Yep.
I mean, like, that's kind of a strange thing to be like, that's a pro, but it really is. It's like if they'd have tried to do the trains and the ships, and then it would just been like, okay, I think that would have been too much. There's already a lot going on in here. But I don't know. Another thing I like is that the neutral tiles halfway through the game, they change. I like that. I just think it's like, oh, something shifted, and now I may have wanted to do something, but I'm not mad about it. But I like that. I like the fact that the game has changed, and you're forcing me to adapt and continue to move. So I know it's a quick one, but
all the extra cards, I like them. You pay for one of the hazards, you're going to get a bonus card. When you have gold, you're going to get a bonus card. Those things, again, it's helping to move the game along. It's giving you more to do, but it's not making it more difficult necessarily. But I like the fact that when you get those cards, so not only now are you building your deck in a little bit different way, but you're also playing them and immediately getting a bonus and a new card in its place. So they're kind of becoming another way to get through your hand, to the hand management part of the game, to be able to sell your sheep or shear your sheep effectively to get the points.
Yeah. And I like these bonus tiles. Gold is a scarce resource in reality, and it's a scarce resource in this game. So are you going to spend it to try to get there can potentially be some cool cards. So there's 10 different cards, and the pain in the ass setup, and I'll get into the cons, but you only pick 4 of the 10 cards that are available, so the game's always going to change, right? So, but are you going to spend it on trying to get some workers that can do anything because you're not quite getting what's up here? You're going to try to get some victory points. You're going to try to get, a ×2 drawing more cards so you can cycle through your deck more. I like those because it is scarce. You're not going to just get them all the time, and they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
where else do we go with this?
I don't know. There's a lot of positives.
There are, and I don't want to get to the point where I'm just saying positives because, I like this little tiny thing. But those are, I think, the big parts of the game for me that would be positives. The what we call the bird track, that's a great addition. It doesn't add a lot of complexity, but again, it's giving you bonuses, sometimes immediate, sometimes end game. Things like that were well thought. And again, they don't take away from the game. They feel integrated into the game. Yeah. Now, I don't understand the thematic aspect of it, but it doesn't feel like it's something that's an add-on that is just kind of thrown in. Like it works. So they've done a good job with that.
They probably could have completely gotten rid of it, to be honest, if we get into some cons, but I like it. Yeah. So now that I know, like, you can't ignore it, I like the fact that it's a different way to get more movement. I like the fact that if you get high enough on it, you don't have to pay people anymore for the game or for the hazards or things like that. So I like that reward for pushing that track and going along with it.
And it's really not hard to move up the track. It's doable, but it does mean stop at that building.
Yeah.
So
stop at that building, try to get a few of the cards, get in your deck, and then you get far enough, and then you can kind of like, okay, I'm moving on, and I'm not going to worry about that track anymore. The last half or the last 25% of the game.
Yeah.
What kind of cons? What don't you like?
There's not a whole lot I do not like. There's really not. I feel like I wanted there to be a change with some aspects. I'm glad they didn't change some of the things so that there's continuity between each of the different iterations of Great Western Trail. But like, there's no real difference with the objective cards or the bonus tile, not these bonus tiles, but those bonus tiles, whatever they're called. I don't know. I have to think about it a little bit more. I tried to rack my brain of things that I did not like about this game. The buildings, I wish we had more buildings ourselves, because I feel like they're a little limited in how you can move up in terms of the buildings or improve your buildings. I found that I had a hard time going +1 level. And maybe that's just the way that I played it. And granted, I've not played it enough, so I know that I'm not an expert in this game yet on how to do it. But
that was also a card that we had for this scenario.
Yes.
Right. So it was only allowing you to get for free upgrade your building for 1. Yeah. Right. But that's when you want to have a building like, oh, there's a level 5 and a 6 and a 7 and 8 and a 9.
And there's not.
I'm sure that's by design.
Yeah.
Right. But
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. And I'm not saying that's a con necessarily. It just would be nice to have some more. But just like the other game, there's 10 building tiles. I don't think we need more necessarily. But the part of me that wants constantly changing things and having a lot of options. Yeah. So I really, honestly, I don't know if I have any cons.
Yeah. My biggest con is that it's harder to set this game up. And the biggest reason it's harder to set it up, and this is going to be your first implementation. You're going to figure out how you like to separate things. You're going to figure out how you're going to do some of this. But you've got these 4 cards at the top. Once you realize that, after you're going to put them in their own baggie. You're going to put these pieces of cardboard that go above them so that when you see that icon, it references that card. You're going to put that all together. These cards where you're only using 4 out of the 10, it tells you to go through and find the ones with a star. And so you're going to have to find those, and hopefully you didn't shuffle them before it happened, because they're similar because they have some sheep in them. They have some of these bird tiles in them. They have the dog in them. They have the dock in them. They have objectives. So you're going to have to look at these and see, okay, these objective cards aren't part of this special setup objective cards. And these sheep aren't part of the bonus sheep that's always out, or they're not part of the sheep that go here. You really have to start knowing that before you're like, oh, I'm just going to get in and start doing stuff and go. It is very specific. And then you're like, what are they trying to tell me? Oh, the lowest number 1, so this one's number 1, is always going to be the ship steering wheel. So whatever the lowest one is always going to be this symbol. So whenever I see this symbol in the future, that means it's this card. So setting that up and getting it right is important. And my dogs are going crazy. Somebody must be at the door. So that's a con.
So I have a bit of something to add into that, though. Caveat. I'm going to assume something about you, but Brad's not a big fan of Dominion. Brad does not like Arkham Horror the living card game, the portion of it where you're setting up all the decks all the time. For those of us that do play those type of things, I don't think that's going to be a negative for you at all. My immediate thought when they said there's 10 cards and you're using these starter cards to pick out what it is was, oh, I'm used to that. I do that all the time when I play certain games. So it could just be, if you play the games where you're used to setting up unique decks like that, you're not going to have any problem. If you're not, it's probably going to be a pain, just like it is for Brad. So I'm not saying that you...
And you just have to figure out your own method. What I do is I take all those starter decks and I put them in a small Ziploc bag, and I take all the others and put them in a different one. But it's like, okay, which one of these go where? Because they don't, the tray that they give you doesn't help you segment all those different cards in a way like Dominion, where, every one of those can be in a different slot.
Here's my negative. You just let me know what my negative is. And this is my negative with Great Western Trail 2nd Edition, with Argentina, and now with New Zealand. The game tray, terrible. Downright terrible. And maybe this one's a little bit better, but like with Argentina, it doesn't even hold the game and organize it properly. You have to get something different. And I can almost guarantee you that whoever it is that comes out with aftermarket organizers, whether that's Broken Token or any of them, they're probably going to set it up in a way that's going to have all those decks separated to be able to make that setup so much faster, as opposed to Brad uses Ziploc bags. Ziploc bags piss me off usually, so I'm the type of person I'm going to find something else, whether it's a deck box that I can organize them in one way, something. Every one of us has our own way of organizing games, and I think you do have to take that in consideration. You're right. You have to figure out what works for you, but I guarantee you that if you're like me, that I'm going to go out and buy an aftermarket box organizer, or I'm going to make my own with foam core, it's going to take into account that you have to set up these decks or the market before you start the game. So so for some, that's going to be a negative. I don't see that as a con at all, but I'm used to that. So it wouldn't add anything for me frustration-wise. So, yeah.
It is a table beast, though.
It is. Does not normally bother me unless we're trying to fit it into a space that works on camera. Yeah. Or I guess if you're on a small, if you have a small table.
Even upstairs, it was tough.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It takes up a lot of room.
Yeah. Brad has a pretty big table to be able to play games on. It's not huge by any means, but it holds most of our games pretty well. And this was pretty tight on that too. Yeah. If you have a very small table, do keep in mind this game's not going to fit well at all.
Where are we at on the weight rating?
Yeah. So according to current status on BGG, the weight is coming in at 3.96. To give you comparison, and we're nickel and diming this, Great Western Trail 2nd Edition is currently at just about 3.7. Argentina is just about 3.8. This is coming in just about 3.9. So they're all pretty close.
Yeah, biggest thing I would say is I would disagree. I think Argentina is harder than this.
I agree completely. And that was what I was going to say. Of all of them, so 2nd Edition is going to be the least complex when it comes to components, mechanics, and game operation. Yeah. This game, honestly, I feel like it's easier. Now, is it easier because we've played a ton of games of 2nd Edition and we've played Argentina, and now we're playing this? I don't know, but I do. I agree 100%. Argentina is definitely going to come across as a more difficult game to be able to play than New Zealand. So I don't agree with that. I don't think that this is the 3.96. I don't think this is the hardest of the games.
Yep.
I don't want to be a snob. I'm trying not to get into that mindset of we play a lot of very heavy games. I don't feel like this is a 4. Like 3.96 is rounded up to a 4. I don't feel like this is a 4. But if you're not used to playing the games that have all the complexity, all the different things in it, then it's going to take some time to get into that. We're coming into it with a lot of knowledge already of Great Western Trail and Argentina, so it's not adding much.
And to kind of like, what are you used to? Great Western Trail, these mechanics are no harder than Great Western Trail. They're just more of them. And I like to talk about, I think, width versus depth. And then when I talked about Lords of Ragnarok, there's a ton of stuff, but there was like, you got to do 2 things of a ton of stuff, right? This is more, there's just more to do, but it's not like Argentina. There's a few things to do, but it's like layers and layers and layers and layers. Like if I deliver now, and then when's the ship going to leave? And once I get up to where the ship went, and how am I going to play that game and make sure I get ahead of there? Like it's you're looking at chess many moves ahead with Argentina. This is closer to checkers, where I got a couple moves, but then I'm playing on 5 checkerboards, right? Yeah. And Great Western Trail is kind of like that. I may be playing on 3 checkerboards, and this one you're playing on 5 checkerboards, and in Argentina you're playing chess.
Yeah.
So it's just to give you like some analogies that may or may not mean anything.
And comparing this to 2nd Edition, so let's not talk about Argentina, because it's likely that if you're going to play this, the one that you would have played if you've played a Great Western Trail is 2nd Edition or even 1st Edition.
Right.
Not Argentina. The train. The train adds a lot more complexity
Mm-hmm.
than this adds complexity with more things.
Yep.
Because in Great Western Trail, when you are selling your cows, which is pretty much the only thing that you're working towards objective-wise as you make the track, every round you are selling, throwing away your cards, getting new cards. You have to make sure that you are advancing that train the whole way through. Otherwise, you are going to get screwed.
Yep.
And then you're going to lose a lot of points, and it's just going to be, it's going to take the game and say it's no more fun. Whereas, because they got rid of the trains, thank goodness, I guess that's the one thing I've learned over the years of playing Great Western Trail. That's the one that I don't like. That's the one part of it I don't like. Now you have no trains to worry about. Yeah, you got to pay a little bit of money with it, but it opens up the opportunity to just sell your sheep. It's not sell your sheep. Oh, wait, make sure that I've already got the train where I need it to go.
Mm-hmm.
That is the complexity change. And that's why when I say I think this one's easier to play than Great Western Trail 2nd Edition, it's because you don't have to manage this train track and trying to sell your cows. Here, you are just selling your sheep.
Yep.
And so that is what makes it a lot easier. So even if you play without adding in a lot of the bonuses, if you're sitting down to play it for the first time, you might not do everything. Somebody else might beside you, but if you are selling those sheep, man, you're going to get some points from it. Yep. So that's where I think the complexity is. So what do I think the value is in terms of the weight? I think that value marker is probably, honestly, I think it's somewhere around a 3.7.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's what you think, but I'm thinking this game is right about a 3.7.
And I don't know if honestly, I don't know if I care what the weight rating is. I think of it more as in terms of Great Western Trail is the easiest. This is the next hardest, and Argentina is the hardest. And I think if you're splitting hairs, around a 4.
Yeah,
it's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. So
if you're used to playing these kind of games, I honestly think this might be a little bit easier than 2nd Edition. If you're used to the mechanics of it, just because of that train track. But yeah, it is splitting hairs. I mean, that's it. It's one for the next. One thing for training, one for the other. So, anyway, so that's weight. What about value?
Value rating. So you can. It was nice. I got this at Gen Con. I paid retail for it, which was like $70. You can get it at $60 already. It's widely available. You're not having to wait. Like, they got their shipment and they've just hit the ground running. You can see other videos and teaches and everything out there already. I think for the experience that you're getting with this, it's absolutely worth $60. And I am very biased because Great Western Trail is one of my favorite games of all time. Top 100. Go check out our list. I think this is a 4 to a 5 out of 5. It's a great Euro game. If you can get it cheaper, if you ever see it on sale for less than $60, if you can get it under 50 or any of these 40 or any clearing, pick it up. This is a great iteration. You don't need the other two. This would be the one to grab for that price.
Even MSRP, I think it's still up there in value.
Yeah. So 4 out of 5, and I am very happy with what I paid for it. So for me, it's a 5 out of 5 for the experience that I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I 100% agree with that. We have some games that we pay $150 for
that aren't as good as this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what everybody's been waiting for, our BGG rating.
I want to know what yours is, because Great Western Trail is your favorite game of all time, or one of your favorite games of all time. I have to know what you are rating this at.
So I had to play this enough times because my first game I was kind of like, I still think I like Great Western Trail first better. So I'm not going to tell you whether it's better or not. I'm going to just give you a rating of this game. Comment down below if you would like us to look at Great Western Trail 2nd Edition, Argentina, Rails to the North, and do more of a rapid review. This is a way for us to sucker you into like commenting down below, right? And let's get another video out. How we rate them, which one's the best, which one's the worst, So they're all great games, right?
Or pros and cons between them.
Yeah. So I am going to say my BGG rating of this, I think this is a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
I think this is a 9 out of 10. I like this game. It's a stellar implementation of Great Western Trail.
Trying to think back to videos that we have done. So we've done videos on all three now. I'm trying to think what you rated the others at. Yeah, I'm going to pull up on BGG here in just a second to take a look. So I know what I rated the other two.
You remember?
Do you remember what you rated the other two?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
So
what do you think I rate this game at?
I think you're at least an 8. Because I think that's where you are on the other ones now. I don't know if you'll take it to a 9, but I would say it's at least an 8. But I bet this is one of your favorite, maybe. It's hard to say. I'm at least an 8 or a 9. I don't think it's a 10.
I'm giving it a 10.
Are you really?
I am. So it was between 9.5 and a 10. And I've been thinking about it as we were playing this last game, the playthrough. I was trying to figure out, okay, where am I going to put this? A 10, I don't give a lot of 10s. So I'm hesitant to say 10. I want to just say 9.5 and not 10.
Yeah.
But when I think of a board game that I want to play, and I want to play all the time, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the I want to play this all the time game. Does that mean it's my favorite game of all time? No. But when it comes to the complexity versus the mechanics versus the theme versus the objectives versus the play experience that you have sitting down with other people, I love deck builders. I love Tableau building. I love engine building. I love all of these mechanics. And they have implemented it, I think, in this game so well. And so that is why, for me, when it comes to the rubric, of how do we rate our games, Brad and I tend to use the BGG rubric. This is the one that I always want to say yes to. And Argentina, honestly, and even first edition was almost there. Mm-hmm. But this is the implementation that has taken it to the next step to say, this is the one that I want to sit down and play all the time. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I am impressed.
Yeah. I'm giving this one a 10.
Let's see if this one will overcome the others, but we will be, next week after this video, you'll see us compare all of them, because why not just have a whole month of Great Western Trail? No, we won't do that, but we would want to do that.
I know, right? Right. Just do a playthrough of all
yeah, one after the other,
marathon of playthroughs of Great Western Trail.
So thank you very much for hanging around for whatever 30 minutes or however long we talk. And I think we took 30 minutes just talking about the weight rating of this game. So that's how we roll here at BAAAAD Board Games.
It is what it is. But we hope you enjoyed it. Comment down below what you think about this game, whether you've played it or not. What is it that you either enjoy the most or are looking forward to the most with this game? Or the one thing that you say is an absolute miss, and Brad and I completely missed it on the mark. So we'd love to know that down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed, we would love to have you sitting down at the table, long haul for us as we go through our playthroughs, reviews, rapid reviews, thoughts, ramblings, picking on each other, whatever it might be at the table. So thank you guys so much.
Just remember, comment down below if you want us to talk about all 3 games and which one's best.
Yes.
Just remember, no matter how you play, whether it's solo, with family, or friends,
enjoy whatever games you are bringing to the table.
Have a great night.